Everybody loves making fun of George Dillman. If you spend any time on YouTube, you've seen the clips. A grandmaster waves his hand, makes a weird sound, puts his tongue in a certain spot of his mouth, and breathes a vibration, and then suddenly someone passes out and falls over. And if you read the comments, they're brutal. He's a fraud. He's a cult leader. He's a fake martial artist. He's delusional. And honestly, I get it. The no-touch knockout demonstrations do look ridiculous. But I think most people are missing something very important. Because when you focus only on the no-touch knockouts themselves, you ignore the fact that George Dillman was also a legitimate martial artist with a resume that most of the critics in the comments could never touch. No pun intended. And more importantly, I think the real explanation for why thousands of intelligent people genuinely believing these demonstrations work is right in front of us. Not because they're stupid, not because they're lying, but because they actually experience something. And today I want to separate fact from fiction. I want to talk about the real George Dillman, the real art of Kyusho, and the fascinating psychology behind no-touch knockouts.
Welcome to Coach's Corner. Where host, coach, and martial art instructor Travis Williams and special guests discuss philosophy, theory, and experience of being a coach.
Before we criticize the man, let's acknowledge some facts. George Dillman wasn't some random guy who just showed up one day claiming magical chi powers. He spent decades in the martial arts. He was a tournament competitor with, championship after championship. He was a high-ranking instructor that worked with other high-ranking, respectable instructors. He was an author. He was a seminar presenter. He influenced thousands of martial artists and helped popularize karate, kempo, and pressure point fighting in America. Whether you agree with everything he taught or not, he earned some level of respect through years of training and competition. And that's important. Because too many people try to erase someone's legitimate accomplishments because they disagree with the later claims. Those are two separate conversations. The George Dillman, the martial artist, does deserve recognition. The George Dillman with the no-touch knockouts deserves scrutiny. But both can be true at the same time. Let's take a second to talk about Kyusho, though, because this is where things start getting unfair. People hear pressure points and immediately think of this chi magic. But real pressure point fighting isn't magic. It's basic anatomy, it's neurology, it's leverage, it's pain compliance. It's understanding the vulnerable structures of the human body. Police use it, military combatives use it, traditional martial artists use it. MMA people talk about it all the time. Kickboxers talk about deadlegging. They talk about hitting the boxer's button. Boss Rutan even talks about, the liver strikes quite often. But all these are true. The liver shot, the jaw strike, the carotid choke, the brachial plexus strike. All these work because the body has vulnerabilities. The art of Kyusho is understanding those vulnerabilities and being able to use them. And there's a genuine value in studying that. But then something changed. The seminars evolved. The conversation moved beyond pressure points. Now students were hearing about energy, chi, biomagnetic fields, energy projection, sound projection. And if you watched enough Dillman footage, you notice a pattern. A very specific pattern. First, it's the authority. He's a grandmaster with decades of experience. Then he comes out with an explanation. The body runs on electricity. The brain communicates through electrical impulses, all of which are true. But then he starts bridging the truth to pseudo-fiction. Chinese talk about qi. Pressure points are like electrical switches. Now we're moving from science to interpretation. Then come the demonstrations, using small effects, using pressure points, using balance disruptions, causing real dizziness. Experiences participants can, actually feel and genuinely feel. Then he asks for volunteers. Then he does bigger demonstrations. Eventually, step by step, it leads to no-touch knockouts. Does this sound familiar? Because I've seen this exact structure before, and it's not in martial arts. It's not in the martial arts. When I was in high school, we had a stage hypnotist come in. And he did all these amazing claims. He claimed to be the fastest hypnotist in the state of Missouri. And he talked about how when you drive down a road, the lines and the long distance can put you in a state of hypnosis. That led me to eventually study stage hypnosis. The structure was almost identical. The hypnotist establishes authority, explains hypnosis, builds expectations, performs small demonstrations, then asks for volunteers. They select the most responsive people. Then they create larger and larger effects. The audience watches this progression and thinks, well, if the first thing worked, maybe the next thing will work too. And eventually people are experiencing very real reactions. Not because they're being controlled, not because they're weak-minded, but because expectation, belief, focus, and suggestion are incredibly powerful. Their participants aren't pretending. They're experiencing something real. The explanation is simply different. And this is where I think everything clicks. Why do Dillman students genuinely believe? Because they felt something. Maybe they felt tingling, maybe they felt warmth, maybe they felt dizzy, maybe they genuinely collapsed. The experience was real. The sensations were real. The reactions were real. What may not be real is the explanation, and it's just like stage hypnosis. The participant isn't faking. The participant is experiencing a genuine response, but that response may come from expectation, suggestion, attention, authority, social influence, rather than some invisible energy projection. When you think of it that way, suddenly the mystery disappears. The students aren't stupid. The critics aren't entirely wrong. Both sides are seeing a part of the picture. And what I believe is one of the most saddest parts of this story, those students believe. They start mimicking. They start mirroring. They learn the same techniques. They go through the same patterns until eventually they're the ones knocking people out. So these people aren't cognitive of the reasoning why. They genuinely believe it to be true. So they're not fake. They honestly believe in no-touch knockouts and the chi energy projections. And that's why I think the George Dillman story is actually kind of tragic. Because the no-touch knockout controversy overshadows everything else. The legitimate study of anatomy, the legitimate study of pressure points, the legitimate martial arts accomplishments, the real value hidden underneath the spectacle. Today, when many people hear the word Kyusho, they immediately think of the no-touch knockouts and energy projection, and that is unfortunate. Because real pressure point knowledge still exists. Real neurological vulnerabilities still exist. Real martial art applications still exist. Those ideas deserve to be judged on their own merits. So were no-touch knockouts real? Yes. People really experienced them. People really felt something. People really fell down. But the better question isn't whether they were real. The better question is what actually caused them. And I think the answer may have a lot more to do with psychology than supernatural energy. But regardless where you stand on the debate, George Dillman still deserves recognition for the legitimate martial arts legacy that he built long before the no-touch knockout videos went viral.